Earth, August 14th, 2001. Thanks for the nuggets, Daddy. Nelida jumps with glee, reaching into the McDonald's bag to retrieve her food. I plant a kiss on her forehead, smiling as she ravages her way through the small feast. Of course, Princess. How did school go today? I quiz as she's midway through a French fry. Mrs. Smith said I'm the best drawer. I made a drawing of you, Daddy. Nelida then turns to stand on the seat and reaches into the back seat of the car to retrieve her backpack, unzipping the largest part and pulling out a colorful sketch. It depicts me in the basement while working on an experiment, my lab coat and goggles on as I look over a collection of different chemicals and mixture. I carefully grab the sketch from her and get myself a closer look. This is great. You really capture my image, huh? I inform her lightly, rubbing her head back and forth vigorously to mess her hair up. I wrote your name too, Daddy. Look! She guides her index finger over to the top right corner of the paper, my name being drawn in bold blue letters. Jonathan. Spelled exactly correct. Well, this is definitely going up on the fridge. I cheer, giving Nelida a light pat on the back as she goes back to her meal. Mama says my drawing take up too much space, so she doesn't put them on the fridge. She announces with a hint of sorrow, her eyes lowering to the bottom of her car seat. My white smile shifts to a moderate frown as I glance out the windshield of the car. Well, what does she do with them at her house? I ask, fearing the admittedly inevitable answer. I don't know, but whenever I give her a drawing, I don't see them again. She shrugs, her grim expression now matching mine. Both of us don't say anything for several seconds. I could feel my blood boiling as I tightened my grip on the steering wheel, knowing what my ex-wife had been doing. It clicked perfectly in my head, and I hated that it did. Well, I'm supposed to take you to Mom's house today, but before we go, how about a McFlurry for dessert? I propose, to which Nelida thrashes excitedly in her seat. Yes, yes, please. Can I get Oreo topping, Daddy? Of course, Princess. I reply, my smile now returning. Of course you can. The Annihilation Realm. Present day. The orchestrator and I stand as still as ice as we both stare each other down. I can see his tail moving excitedly behind his figure, telling me this fight was nothing more than simple entertainment to him. But to me, it meant the fate of my friends. I go on the offensive and take the first strike, leaping over the orchestrator and taking a slash at his chest with my right claw. He blocks this, making a fist with his webbed hand and quickly throwing an uppercut. I go off my feet and spend several moments in the air before falling back down. His attacks are surely powerful, stronger than most opponents I had faced over the decades. But I would not yield. He would have to kill me for that to happen. He dashes over for a follow-up, throwing himself at me. I quickly move to the right and get back up to my feet, grabbing him by his tail and swinging him over my head. He collides hard against the arena floor, provoking a gasp from all the creatures in the stands. I lift him up to slam him again, but his tail extends and wraps itself around my arm. The orchestrator takes this opportunity to fling me forward, chasing after me as I soar through the air toward the energy wall. I shift my weight, reaching out and digging my claws into the floor, stopping myself just inches from the wall, a hair from what might have been a guaranteed loss on my end. You're a worthy warrior, Bronn, he says, his slimy tongue appearing from between his jaws. But I have never been defeated. You stand in the way of me saving my friends. I don't care how many battles you've conquered. This will be your first defeat. I snarl back, baring my teeth and showcasing my claws. I charge him, dashing over to the side and utilizing a similar strategy I had performed on Thaw. He predicts this, holding out an arm in order to clothesline me. But I avoid it, going underneath and then swiping at one of his scaled legs. He cries out, his now-known thick yellow-grey blood dripping from the wound. But I don't give him the time to recover. I go in for another attack again, grabbing and lifting him over my head before proceeding to smash his body into the floor below. It cracks and buckles from the force of the impact, kicking up dust and rock as a result. The terrible scent of his breath finds its way to my nose as I lean down, stomping my foot onto his chest and then slashing him across the face, giving him a line of cuts that will surely scar him for plenty of time to come. "No!" he bellows, angry at what I had just done. He sticks his claw into my leg and proceeds to climb me like I'm a makeshift tree. We stumble, and I howl as he slides his claw into a vertical motion up my leg, making me retaliate by prying him off and throwing him well over 20 feet away. My dark blue blood flows its way down my leg. The wound would heal soon enough, but the pain was still ever so potent, stinging all the way up the length of my cut-up limb. The orchestrator immediately gets up and returns to my position. We roar like feral beasts as the both of us trade blows and slashes, cutting each other's bodies up with a multitude of gashes and lacerations. I make a fist and hit him several times in the chest, before colliding the side of my body with the front of his. He falls straight down with a loud thud, but his tail gets a grip on my lower leg, causing me to lose my balance and fall forward onto him. As I do, he turns his claw into a fist and throws a powerful right hook at the side of my face, and then another before lunging upwards and using the momentum to pin me onto my back. I slash at both of his arms. He howls before burying a claw into my chest inches above my heart, following it up by delivering several earth-shattering blows to my face, punching me further and further into the floor of the arena. I seize a chunk of rock from the floor and smash it against his head. The orchestrator is dazed, allowing me to hit butt and knock him several feet into the air. As the gravity kicks in and he falls, I jump up and with one quick but precise swing of my claws, cut the end of his tail clean off. The pain clearly slows him down, and with me still bleeding mainly around my torso and leg, it stings and hurdles my ability to move nearly as efficiently. But I still force myself to keep going, to keep pressing on, and to keep fighting. I go in for a blow, but the orchestrator blocks it, returning with multiple of his own, only one of them successfully hitting me in the chin. I keep my position, but still can't help but snarl from the sharp, painful sensation of it all. Our blood mixes together as we continue to claw and gorge each other. I nearly disemboweled the orchestrator after taking a swing at his abdomen, but he moves out of the way just in time. I then reach my left arm out as if to go for his leg, but he maneuvers to counter it, forcing me to utilize my right claw to grip him by the throat, my leg still shaking from the cuts as I lift him above eye level, glaring at him furiously. "Enough! Yield, now!" I bark, applying more pressure to his throat, threatening to crush it right then and there. The orchestrator chokes and squirms as I deprive his oxygen. The crowd of entities in the stands is now completely quiet, the obvious tension higher than ever before. The orchestrator refuses to admit defeat, so I strengthen the force of my squeeze, making his writhing for air increase even further as he swats and attempts to hit me out of desperation. But it was futile on his end. "I do not want to kill you, but if I must, then I will," I say, bringing him closer and biting him in the shoulder and tearing a sizable amount of flesh away, to which he responds by only thrashing around more. Just before I witness him about to black out, I let go, letting him drop to my feet as he inhales obnoxiously, reaching at the air above as if to physically grab some oxygen. "Do you yield?" I probe, slamming my foot onto his chest and baring my teeth yet again. "My friends are closer to a grave fate every second you hold me here in this dreaded place. They will not die because of your trivial entertainment-based demands." The orchestrator then suddenly buries both of his claws into my ankle, causing me to erupt with a devastating howl of agony and physically stumble, my foot no longer on his chest as I fumble around to the side, only barely catching myself from falling over. He rises and attacks, just as I regain balance, throwing several blows to both my chest and face before I fall, some of my blood coating his snout as he snarls near my face. Once I'm on my back, he continues wailing and slashing, then wrapping his reptilian hands around my throat and beginning to squeeze, restricting my breathing just as I had done to him only moments ago, my body feeling weaker from all the damage I had taken. I put a stop to this, mustering the strength to reach over and grab him around the sides. I throw him upwards off of me, propelling his body about 10 feet or so above mine. This opens an opportunity. I steady myself, embedding my claws within the ground as gravity pulls them right down back to me. I time it just right, throwing my face forward and viciously headbutting the airborne reptile, much harder than the first time. He's thrown to the left side, sliding along the floor of the area while laid flat on his abdomen, dust and rock residue dispersing as we cause more and more destruction. The both of us struggle to get to our feet, dozens of cuts and gashes all across our bodies. Neither of us can help but growl and complain. I take a look at the floor, seeing the small piece of the orchestrator's tail I had sliced off mixed with a pool of blood of my own. Perhaps I overestimated you. You will be just another in a long line of fools who have tried to face me and lost gravely. I will mount your head in the weapons room, Braun. He taunts, seemingly going back on his previous statement of this not being a fight to the death. I don't waste time responding to his obvious provocation. I instead use every last bit of energy and strength I have left and dash over to Genjin's corpse, grab the sword he had tried to use against Arya and then lunge. The sword pierces through the orchestrator's right leg as he lets out a scream like never before. I release my grip on the blade, letting it stay in place as he writhes and howls. This of course only making the metal burrow deeper in his flesh the more he moves. I then rise to stand up straight, watching him as he squirms with the sword still implanted in his leg. "Do you yield?" I ask once again, my tone far more impatient than the first time. "If you kill me, you can rule," he begins. I reach down and grab him yet again, raising him up until his eyes are level with mine. "I will not kill you if you yield," I utter, no room for debate left in the way I ordered him. He stays quiet, not wanting to respond and admit defeat. So instead, I reach down with my free claw and drive the sword deeper, making him shriek even louder than previously. "You have one last chance to yield. If your next words are not you admitting defeat, I will drive this sword through your heart. My seconds are precious, and you're wasting them." There's silence, not only between the orchestrator and I, but the crowd and the spectator stands as well, giving the arena a temporary eeriness as he is deciding what his answer will be. I can sense it, his great hesitance in uttering what has to be said next, every fiber in his being holding back the words. If I could have dealt with it another way, I would have. He stutters, still in distress from his injuries. But he wasn't alone. I could feel every nerve of mine as if it were up in flames. "I yield." Immediately, the arena is bombarded with all sorts of cries and cheers, most of them being the chanting of my name, even more intensely than ever before. I had won, but not without suffering plenty of abrasions myself. He had put up a truly devastating brawl. There were many points where I was sure he might have defeated me. Truth be told, I was feeling weak, but I knew it was worth it. I was desperate to make it back to Earth. I needed to do everything in my power to speed that up. The fight would have gone on far too long without me picking up Genjin's sword, more likely to the death. I would not yield and doom my friends as long as I could draw a breath. I then grabbed the sword and pulled it from the orchestrator's leg as two of the sorcerers entered the arena, tossing it over to the side uneventfully. He, of course, screams once again, more of his blood spilling at our feet. The sorcerers begin to approach the two of us, knowing what now had to happen. But I hold out a claw, signaling for them to stop for just a moment. I take a long glance over the arena, circling the circumference with just my eyes alone, looking at all the life forms as they look back at me. "From now on, only those who choose to fight willingly in the Annihilation Realm will be put into this arena, man, cryptid or otherwise," I command, raising the volume of my voice as loud as I possibly can, desperate for every single creature to hear me clearly. Everyone stands to attention, listening to me as I speak, some even unnecessarily bowing in submission, making the mistake of thinking I was their new ruler. So far, I had seemed to cut their attention with my words. "This leader of yours is not the fair ruler he pretends to be, but I will spare his life as mercy. I do not have time to stay and fight. I was never meant to be here to begin with. But if I catch word of the current ways being reinstated, I will find a way to come back, and I will make sure those responsible are dealt with. I then motioned for both the sorcerers to step forward and finish their short march over to the both of us. I then demand them to first heal the orchestrator's wounds, keeping my eyes locked on his as they do so. It was this that he seemed grateful for. "You're coming with me, back to Earth," I demand of him, to which he attempts to protest, but I inform the lizard those are my terms for sparing his life. Once he is repaired and back to his full strength, the sorcerers then shift their attention over to me. I naturally tell the orchestrator to stay close, not wanting him to run or try to escape last second. Both of the sorcerers then begin to recite whatever spells in their alien language, a green aura surrounding me, coming from seemingly nowhere as it engulfs my body. I'm lifted just a few inches off the ground, allowing me to slightly levitate as the aura circles me. It isn't long before all my cuts and lacerations were healed, slowly closing up as I watch. This had to be the most powerful form of magic I had come across in over a decade, healing me faster than my natural ability to do so. I get a rush, a surge that flows through all of my veins, unlike anything I'd ever felt before. Not only was I healed back to my prime state, but I was enhanced far beyond that, feeling more powerful than ever before. My appearance seemingly stays the same. However, there is one cosmic shift. My skin. It had turned red, leaving behind my previous midnight blue for a scarlet shade. My joints still shone at the edges, and everything else remained faithful to my structure before. But I was now red. The spell ends, and the green aura fades, dropping me back down to my feet. I can't help but take multiple glances of intrigued curiosity at my now scarlet-colored skin, mesmerized by such an inessential transformation. The orchestrator then slowly progresses closer, looking me over as if he had seen this thousands of times before, unimpressed by the magic of the sorcerers. "You may as well now call yourself Superior Brawn," he tells me, still a small hint of bitterness in his voice. "It's still just Brawn. I should back. It would always be, no matter my power." I then turn my head over to the sorcerers once more, being slightly caught off guard by just how fast I move now. I do gain some control of my pivoting speed, although it was difficult to adjust at first. "Send me home, and the orchestrator with me," I tell the both of them, to which they nod their heads. I grab the orchestrator by the arm and keep him near me as the sorcerer begins the same process he had done with Arya. This time, a red aura, similar in color to my new pigmentation, whirls its way around the orchestrator and I. This time, I hear the screams of my friends, Johnny, Jenny, and even Arya as they are torn to pieces. I see the Pine Runners, the ones on the earth, surrounding us. Hundreds upon hundreds of them, while Yubel and the Five-Headed Witch stand behind the horde like leaders of an army. I'm able to fight it this time around, ignoring all the negative stimuli during the travel process. It's not particularly long before I open my eyes and find myself surrounded by trees, bushes, and rocks. The specific pattern of them I in fact recognized. It was the forest right across from the spa. I could hear gunfire, screams of existential dread and terror, triumph, and battle cries, all sorts of chaos unfolding. The smell of pine more than palpable, its potency higher than it ever had been previously. "Do I truly have to stay here?" the orchestrator asks, walking up next to me as I press forward, getting a look at his new surroundings. "Yes, I don't truly care if you join in the fight with us, but that world is better off without you. You took creatures from all over the universe and forced them to battle to the death. But now, that is no longer the case. Those who fight there will do so by choice from now on. I'm aware some of them wanted to duel, like Thaw, but many of them also did not, and I will not tolerate it. Those beings are not just for your entertainment." The orchestrator then looks at the ground, his slimy tongue sliding along the outside of his jaw as he contemplates his response. But what is my purpose now? Without the Annihilation Realm, what do I even do with my existence? I was a leader there. They all worshipped me, saw me as a god. I turned to face him directly before replying, both of our eyes meeting as the moonlight gleams down from the canopy of trees overhead. If you promise to never enslave another cryptid again, I will see to it that you have a place among my friends and I once we stop this madness. And none of us are gods. We are creatures who kill, eat, survive, and hunt. Commending others to follow your will does not make you better than them. The orchestrator then looks out past the tree line, his webbed hands loosening. He sighs, accepting the idea that the both of us were creatures who came from two entirely different scenarios. Thank you for your mercy, Bron. I shouldn't have delayed you from returning home to those you hold dear. And if what you say is true, how do I help? Earn my place amongst your people? Maybe you're right. Maybe they are better off without me. You have honor. You are not fully corrupted. There is far worse on this world and every world, and I should thank you for making a deal with me and allowing Arya to leave, as well as this new power. But I'll show you the conflict. We have to hurry, I say, dropping down quadrupedally and sprinting through the forest. I nearly crash multiple times as I charge forward, having to get used to my newfound speed. I'm much more swift than before by at least triple the amount. And even then, I felt like I had plenty left to spare. Halt just a bit, I hear the orchestrator call from behind, which coincidentally allows me to get an idea of how much better my hearing is now. It is only seconds before I break through the tree line and see the spa, or at least, what was left of it. And now it was just barely standing up compared to how it was before Arya and I had left. Before me was a siege, an all-out war between multiple parties. One side of the spa had completely collapsed onto the ground as an explosion had just taken place, smoke still coming off all the materials. There were hundreds, maybe even over 1,000 of the Pine Runners, all running around, jumping and animalistically throwing their limbs in unpredictable directions. Above them was the five-headed witch, her eyes still as green as acid in a vat. She was currently in a calamitous battle with Arya, using her telekinesis to throw out a collection of rubble in her direction as Arya moved to evade it. But what caught my attention the most was the fact I saw men in black, fully geared with body armor and night vision goggles on, unloading every bullet they possibly could from their assault rifles, and mowing down the Pine Runners as they kept coming non-stop, but their rapid movements made it more difficult to hit proper kill shots. The agency, they had found us. Most of the agents were standing toward the direction of the spa, two of them perched on the collapsed rubble as they fired their rifles at the Pine Runners sprinting toward them. Sir, we need reinforcements and more ammo. There's too many of them, one shouts desperately into his radio. It seems as if, for the time being, they were actually assisting us. But I wasn't optimistic that this alliance would last long. Still, despite my previous conflict with them, we could surely use their help for now. I sniffed the air, discovering both John and Jenny's scent, but I wasn't able to pick up Yubal's, indicating he had more than likely fled the area for the time being, or was doing something to mask it. I dove into the massive crowd of Pine Runners, tearing through dozens of them as they jumped and pounced onto me, ripping 3 in half, decapitating 6 with only one swipe of my claws, which had now grown even sharper than before. This had made me sure that not even titanium could stand up to them now. One of the Pine Runners in particular had latched himself onto my chest. I retaliated by effortlessly grabbing and throwing him off, sending him nearly half a mile into the forest. Holy hell! I hear one of the agents on the spa rubble say as he lays eyes on me. That's freaking 16A! What happened to his skin? A few of their stray bullets hit me in the waist area through the crowd of Pine Runners. I of course looked down, expecting to see myself bleeding profusely as a result. But no, I don't. Instead, I lay eyes upon the indented bullets that had failed to pierce my skin, proving to me that I was now seemingly bulletproof, even from the armor-piercing rounds. I continue slashing and ravaging my way through the Pine Runners after comprehending the revelation. The massive green of their blood getting all over me as I rip them to shreds. No, no, no! I hear the agents by the rubble scream. A few dozen of the Pine Runners break off from the main army and swarm them as their rifles click. No ammo left. One attempts to grab a grenade launcher, but has his arm brutally broken by a Pine Runner awkwardly falling onto it as they converged. I leapt over as many of them as I could, throwing them in the air, the left, the right, anywhere to get them out of the way. It proves tedious, but I know what I had to do. But surprisingly enough, the orchestrator jumps in, letting out a battle cry of his own as he takes on his share of Pine Runners, slicing them up rather gruesomely, tearing them clean in half, and even impaling them on his scaly arms. While we were now differed in our power levels, I secretly considered him my combative equal when it came to skill. "Die, you hideous tree beasts," he vocalized quite sternly, while going on his own miniature rampage through the horde. But I see Arya losing miserably to the 5-headed witch, prompting me to command the orchestrator. "Go, help Arya, now!" I shout through all the chaos. I make it to the agents as they're on their backs, the Pine Runners punching, slapping, and scratching away at them. They would have been long dead had it not been for their body armor and gear. One of the Pine Runners attacks. I grab him and lift him up before swiftly decapitating the creature, using his leftover body mass to swat the others away and fling them far from the agents and I. "Oh God," the agent to the left exclaims. "16A, is that really you?" I don't respond as I continue to bash and pummel the other Pine Runners with their deceased relative, most of them either being instantly crushed or flung dozens of feet away, some even landing into the main horde in the middle of the road. Once enough of them had been warded off, I grabbed the two agents and leapt on top of what was left of the spa building, setting them down on the cracked surface of the roof. "You will refer to me as Braun, or I will help you no further," I announce, to which both of them nod their heads. "Now, how did you find us?" At first, the man on the right stutters, still holding his broken arm and gritting his teeth. "The girl with all the hits, the geeks at Site 12 tracked her here using a radiation detector. She gives off a lot of it. We got here and were swarmed by all these dang tree people. They've already killed nearly our entire team thanks to her. But I think they'll be sending backup soon. She's powerful. We need to work together to stop her," I say, sharing a look between the both of them. "But wait," the other agent speaks up. "Our orders to kill you, Dr. John and the Wendigo, still stand." "You will help me save the others," I growl. "And should John and Arya come to harm because of any of you, I will see to it that you meet the same fate as Dr. West." I then leap off the top of the roof and follow the scent of John and Jenny as more of the agency's reinforcements show up, hearing multiple vehicles down the road and a helicopter overhead making their way to the battlefield, arriving much sooner than I had anticipated beforehand. There must have been a facility nearby I was unaware of. I get down on all fours and crawl along the ground. John and Jenny's scent seemed to be coming from underneath the spa inside the basement. But I had to hurry. The remaining parts of the structure wouldn't last much longer. I scurry my way around another wall that had been blown open and head inside, seeing the remains of the interior slowly beginning to crumble and collapse in on itself. I move down the stairs, inching my way across the ceiling and picking up the scent of some of the Black Robe people. I can hear their breathing as well, and it's slow, for the time being. "We need to get them out of here. This place won't hold much longer," one of them announces, allowing me to hear him through the door. "Both of them? Yubel only said we need John alive. We can just kill the girl and be done with it." The door at the bottom of the stairs is made out of solid oak, reinforced by having a metal bolted lock in the front. The bolt lock hadn't been there before, so I assumed it was something they had added later on after holding up there. I tear the bolt off and knock the door down in 2 swift motions. It falls, revealing the rather large basement. The walls and floor are dull grey, looking cracked and just as unstable as the rest of the building above. Nothing on the supply tables or shelves. There's 10 members of the Black Robe people, all holding ragged and rusty blades, more than likely carrying a multitude of diseases on them. Part of me had even pondered if that was on purpose. They turned, looking at me in complete and utter shock. And, as expected, Yubel is not there, but John and Jenny are in the far left corner, both tied up and restrained with gags in their mouths as well. John is still badly bruised with his eyes swollen from his fight with Yubel, before Arya and I were banished to the Annihilation Realm. "Kill him!" commands one of the black robes as the 9 others charge their way over to me with their knives raised. I immediately get to work. The first man does a straightforward dive, attempting to plunge his knife into my thigh. I grab him, throwing him up into the ceiling and cracking it. He falls to the floor immediately afterwards, holding his side as he whimpers. I grab 2 more, slamming their heads together and then scaling the wall after they fall to the floor unconscious. Once on the ceiling, another black robe jumps up and swings his blade. I counter by swiping my claws at him in response, severing his right hand. He screams, holding the now red stump and doing everything in his power to stop the bleeding as I snatch up another, bringing him up to eye level and then sinking my teeth into the side of his arm, tearing off a sizable strip of his flesh. After letting him go, I dash across the ceiling and drop down, finishing off the last few by uneventfully throwing them into the walls and causing them to black out, one in particular crashing through some drywall after I slung him with my left. I get to both John and Jenny, first being extremely careful to remove their gags without cutting their faces with my claws. "Thank you so much. Boy, am I glad to see you." Jenny celebrates as I cut the restraints. "But what happened to your color?" "It's so good to see you again, big guy," John adds. "Yubel, he ran into the forest once the agency showed up. And I don't know how you turned red, but I like the new look." He nods, trying to add some comedic relief to a tense situation, as he always did. But it was only recently that I began to possess a firmer grasp on the concept. As expected of such a coward like him, he will pay for what he has done to you, John, for what he has done to all of us. They both get to their feet, dusting off their clothes and checking themselves for any extra wounds. "We must go. Arya and the orchestrator can't hold off the witch by themselves for long," I informed them urgently, turning to lead the 2 of them out, when I feel John's hand graze my arm. I stop, nearly causing him to fall over before turning around to make eye contact. "Bronn," he says, his veins bulging. I can sense his rage, his undying passion of relentless anger. But relentless anger that was more than justified. Let me kill him. I want Yubel. For Nelida.